when an individual who gets DVR services is found eligible, an order is selected to determine what is needed for them. And then that order is, given a priority. The waiting list is nearly 4,500 people. The service on average costs about $3,000 per person. The $3,000 that we invest in a person who has disabilities, for them to be able to go and do the thing that we say we want to see people do, which is to work. And the thing that really I believe in the Goodwill commercials is the power of work. There's a huge independence and self-worth that happens when an individual can do for themselves. And I can only say that I believe that individuals who have various disabilities in life, really are much stronger than so many others, because they have different burdens to carry that we normally don't. And why we would not consider why we would not be leaders and not rubber stamp what the governor is doing, because to do different would help tremendously. If we were to allocate different, we could potentially help, I think it's 1,900 people if the department had been provided an additional $1.2 million in state matching funds and draw down the full estimate of the federal grant. It's estimated that an additional $6 million would basically combined state and federal dollars would be there to serve like 2,000 individuals. Even if you're not going to go to that level, to leave 4,500 people on a wait list and to frankly not take advantage of the federal dollars that are out there, because the federal portion of funding for these services is almost 80%, 78.7% of federal funds are used to help with these services. We have to match 21.3%. So
No one asked for it. The business community didn't come and ask for it. The Unemployment Compensation Advisory Council has not asked for it. The Unemployment Compensation Advisory Council is a group of individuals consisting of membership between business and labor who have historically been involved in promoting unemployment compensation changes, in which the legislature respects the collaborative effort of business and labor working together. This is one more slap in the face to people who lose their jobs. This shows the disdain for the working families of Wisconsin. The argument made by the Republicans on collective bargaining is, well, the rights aren't in the Constitution. Collective bargaining shouldn't be a right, because Franklin Delano Roosevelt made some speech about it. What's the justification for going after these poor people who lose their jobs? Who might have been at Polaris, who lost their jobs and went to Mexico. Gotta wait a week. Suffer a little more. This is the attack. This is the squeeze on the working families of the world. It's another example of Republican callous behavior towards working families, middle-class families. I thought you were supposed to try to help these families. Try to make sure that they've lost their jobs through no fault of their own. There is no justification for this one-week waiting period. It has nothing to do with fraud. All you're doing is saying, Director Lang, what would be a one week on average? Do we have a way of knowing how much money will be? Well, it's 41.56 million, but I'm talking about the family of 5 who's got to figure out how to pay his bills or her bills, what that income might mean to them. They're probably not watching. They don't know it was here. Maybe this was carved up in a backroom conversation. Somebody told me earlier, I asked what was going on in the back room. I meant it in somewhat of a facetious manner. I'm involved in conversations like that. The answer was probably some on-schedule dumping. Well, this is the result of the on-schedule dumping. And they're dumping on men and women who lose their jobs. You're punishing people who don't have a job any longer. Now, we have heard for months criticism by members of the Republican Party on how Democratic policies have contributed to those working families who don't have jobs anymore. You're sticking a nail in it. This is deliberate. This is unjustified. A budget that provides $200 million in additional tax cuts, that targets tax relief to people who happen to get capital gains tax breaks. If I sell my stock, I'm going to get a tax break as a result of it. But my neighbor who may be unemployed is going to lose $400 or $500. How are they supposed to pay their bills? How are they supposed to keep their homes? How are they supposed to feed their families? It's bad enough when they lose their jobs. Many of us have seen that experience. I know Senator Hopper was working very hard, cared very deeply about those workers in Mercury Marine. There was a lot of anxiety. Want to pile on to their pain and suffering? You got to wait one more week. You're not worthy. There is no justification. Nobody asked for it. Didn't even hear the business community ask for it. This is real shame. This is, honest to God, if I had a plastic bag, I'd put it over my head. The fact of the matter is the Republicans who vote for this should put plastic bags over their heads. This is about as bad as it gets. This does not save the state of Wisconsin. Now, you still have a $1 billion problem. Well, Director Lang, I'm sorry, were you able to come up with any estimate on what an individual, it would probably be an average?
I think it's $363 is a weekly rate.
$360. So they lose 1/4 of their monthly income now that they have, and they've already taken a cut. That's 1/4 of what they get in unemployment compensation. $360 times 4. Try to pay your home mortgage, pay your kids' expenses, buy food, pay your car insurance. Try to do it on 1,440 minus 360. It's tough enough. It's tough enough at 1,440. Apparently they're making too much money at $1,440 after they've lost their jobs. This is about as cynical and sick as you can get. How many are going to send a letter out to the unemployed in your district saying, this is what I've done for you? How many are going to put a press release out saying, well, we really helped the workers in this country, this state. We're really proud of what we've done. We're going to stand by the workers. We're going to stick it to the workers. This doesn't do anything to balance our budget. This does nothing to improve our economy. This, by the way, is money that comes out of the local economy. Where do people who are unemployed spend their money? They spend it in their local neighborhoods, their local community. This is about as low as the legislature can get. I can hardly wait to hear the defense. I'd like to hear each one of the Republicans who are voting for this to defend it. Sit up, as we're supposed to sit up and vote. Why don't you sit up and defend it? Explain it. How is it good for Wisconsin? How does it show some compassion to these people who lose their jobs? I couldn't understand the last motion where the committee couldn't have found $1 million and able to get a little more matching for DVR, people who are disabled. So 2 motions or 3 motions ago, the committee decides to turn the legislature's back on the disabled in this state. Now, they're not turning their back, they're piling on the unemployed. It is hard to stomach some of this stuff. And I'm convinced, given the expression on some of the Republicans, it's hard for you to stomach it too. I think the public has a right to know who hatched this bond, this unscheduled dump on the workers of this state. Whose idea was it? I heard the governor talk about extending, having a 1 week waiting period, but at least the governor was talking about it in the context of extending unemployment compensation, which is what they're doing in other parts of this country. God Almighty, this is extremism gone nuts. Because there's no justification. It saves no money. None at all. Business communities going to see their unemployment compensation going down as a result of this. So who are we helping? Helping no one. Who are we hurting? That poor person that goes home and tells their wife, I just got my pink slip. Put yourself in their shoes. And then the wife says, how are we going to pay the bills? I don't really know. How much are we going to get? Well, we were going to get $1,440, but now we're only going to get $1,080. They're not going to even recognize the first week that I'm unemployed. This is not Wisconsin. This isn't the way Wisconsin has treated its citizens. The first state in the nation to create unemployment compensation. First state in the nation to create workers' compensation. Why is it so necessary to go back and begin to undo policies that have served this state so well, have been so thoroughly supported by men and women of Republican and Democratic persuasion? Because the Wisconsin way is to care about your neighbor, to understand that what's best for the commonwealth of the state, its people, is to work as a community to support those people. Not to expect them to have to live by themselves because their government decides to walk away from them. So, a good friend of my wife's calls, she sees her quite often, talks to her quite often. Her husband is about to lose his unemployment compensation. He's been extended. He's a plumber. Construction business isn't doing so well. Takes some odd jobs once in a while. He's about to lose his unemployment compensation. There's no provision in here to extend the unemployment compensation. I could swear that this body would at least respect the process by which you allow business and labor to make these recommendations. We have done it for years that way. In both houses, in both parties, in governors of both persuasions. But no, you're going to turn your backs on these people. I'll stop because I want to hear the defense. I want each of you to speak. Why don't you do that? Because I can't think of anything other than cruel, callous, disgusting, inhumane, insensitive, careless, callous, despicable. How much pain do you want workers to feel? It only took so long. It only took so long for this Republican majority to decide that it wasn't just public employees you wanted to single out, you wanted to go after those other workers too. And here's the example. Another one. I look forward to the defense.
Senator Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair.